everyone here today. We are in Luke, the 6th chapter this morning. Luke, the 6th chapter. Oh, it's been a couple of weeks since we've been in class. I thought the gentleman last week done a good job presenting what the World Bible School does. I didn't realize some of the things that they did, how far they spread, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing. There in verse 1 of chapter 6 of the book of Luke. Now it happened that when he was passing through some grain fields on the Sabbath, his disciples were picking the heads of grain, rubbing them in their hands, and eating the grain. Has anyone ever done that before? If you're around farming of any kind, if you see wheat, that it'll just shell out, Does that require a lot of effort? A little. Okay? But some of the Pharisees said, Why do you do what is not lawful on the Sabbath? Basically, what's he saying? You're breaking the law. You're breaking the law. All you're doing is rubbing some grain. And they're saying you're breaking the law. Of course, on the Sabbath, what were you supposed to do?
Under the old law.
Under the old law. We're still talking about the Sabbath here. This is when Jesus was living. Okay? The Sabbath. And they wasn't supposed to do anything.
You cooked your food up.
Yeah, you prepared everything the day before. You couldn't walk how far? It wasn't very far. I mean, you had to pretty well do nothing. And Jesus answering them saying, Have you not even read what David did when he was hungry? When he and those who were with him? How he entered the house of God and took and ate the consecrated bread, which is not lawful. But you think about that. Only at that time, this bread was only to be eaten by the priest. David went in and he ate some out of the temple. Except for the priest alone, and he gave it to his companions. So what were they accusing David of here? Do you remember? What were they saying David, what Jesus was saying David? He went in there and he's not a priest.
He was breaking the law.
Yeah, he was breaking the law too. Okay? And he was saying to them, the Son of Man is the Lord of the Sabbath. What did Jesus say right there in that sentence? What did he say?
He's the Lord. He's God.
Designed it, he established it.
I'm the one that put it together. I am over it. Yeah. That's right. He designed it. Everything, you just look at it any way you want to. He is Lord over the Sabbath. Uh-huh.
Acts chapter 1, verse 12 says, Then returned they unto Jerusalem, Mount called Olivet, which is from Jerusalem, 7-day journey. So they just couldn't walk very far.
So it wasn't very far away. Yeah.
I think it's less than a mile.
It's less than about a quarter of a mile is what I remember, I believe, if that's not. It may be more than that, Jerry. I'm not sure. Now in verse 6, and on another Sabbath, he entered a synagogue and was teaching there. There was a man with his right hand withered. Okay, we don't see that a whole lot as much today. Can you kind of describe that to me? He was born with a deformity of some kind. Okay. The scribes and the Pharisees was watching him closely to see if he healed on the Sabbath, so that they might find reason to accuse him. You stop and think about the scribes and the Pharisees here. These were supposed to be men of the people, leaders of the people. And all they cared about, they didn't care about the man that had the problem. All they cared about was trying to catch Jesus breaking the law, so that they could accuse him of doing something wrong. Does that happen today? Something to think about, isn't it? Something to think about. So they were watching him closely that they might find reason to accuse him. Now in verse 8. But he knew what they were thinking. And he said to the man with the withered hand, "Get up and come forward." And he got up and came forward. And Jesus said to them, "I ask you, is it lawful to do good or to do harm on the Sabbath? To save a life or to destroy it?" Here Jesus, after the man came to him, he turned to the Pharisees, the scribes, and asked them this question, knowing what they were thinking. We might say he put it in their court. He put it on them. Because anything they said would have been bad in their eyes. There was no winning on that one. Is it lawful to do good or to do harm on the Sabbath? To save a life or to destroy it? After looking around at them, he said, "Stretch out your hand." And he did so, and his hand was restored. But they themselves were filled with rage and discussed together what they might do to Jesus. Isn't that what did they just see? What did they just see? This wasn't one of those things, well, I'm not feeling good today. Well, now you're feeling good. No, that's not what it was. This was an obvious problem. Obvious problem.
They act like they see miracles happen all the time. So this is nothing new to them, it seems like.
Yeah. But maybe we need to look at a little bit bigger picture. Why were they so angry about him healing this man?
Jealous, I guess.
That could be part of it.
Well,
Uh,
that was part of their livelihood, was supposedly performing miracles and doing magic and this kind of thing for some of them, and they couldn't.
And I could see, they could also see that Jesus maybe was becoming more important than them.
Well, it's such rigid thinking.
Yes, harsh.
Yeah.
I didn't want to get off on this, but we found that out this week
Yeah.
about harsh thinking. I mean, they don't care about human life. They don't care about anybody else but their own thoughts. That's what these people right here were. They didn't care about Jesus. They didn't care about the man that had the problem. They didn't care.
You know, in the life of grace that Christ was bringing to them was so much better, in my opinion, than the law that they were living under.
Yeah.
It's just beyond me.
And this is what got me about the Pharisees and scribes. Were they worried about keeping the law themselves? They were worried about to see if they could catch Jesus breaking.
They were awful busy on the Sabbath.
Yeah, they
trying
were
to catch Jesus.
following him, wasn't
Yeah.
they? Yeah. Yeah.
Bill,
Yes.
in Mark chapter 2, I think, same story about the grain.
Uh-huh.
And at the end of the chapter, it just adds a thing that Jesus said, that the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. So it wasn't meant to be a burden, which is what the Pharisees had turned it into.
That's true. That's a good point. That's a good point. You have to remember, the Pharisees and scribes, what did they do a lot of times? They added to and made it more tradition than just the law. Okay? If Robert leads more than 3 songs before we have a prayer, we may have a problem, Robert. We may have a problem. Because that's how our tradition is, isn't it? It's our tradition. And if Bob preaches more than 30 or 45 minutes, we've got a roast on. We've got to get home. He can't do that. See what our thoughts are? It's not that it's, is it wrong for Bob to preach an hour? No, it's not wrong. But in our own minds, hey, we're late. We're late. So something to think about. But
And then, like I said, if Bob preached a whole hour, and it's wrong for one to get up and leave. However, if an ox in the ditch, you could go.
yeah,
Emergency.
it's true. It's true. But I think about these Pharisees quite a bit. It was just more than being uncomfortable. Did you see what they said they was filled with? Rage. That's more than just being mad, guys. They're looking to see how they can destroy Jesus at that time. That's more than just, oh, you messing us up. No, we want to take care of the problem. That's what they
They
need.
had a little more pride than they should have had.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
What they wanted to do.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Wasn't about-
Well, it's just like the Pharisee when he was praying. What did he do? Stood out, he wanted everybody to see him. And thank God I'm not like him. Do you see what he's doing? He's putting himself up on a pedestal and looking down on everybody else. So, we as Christians today need to be careful that we don't sometimes follow after the Pharisees. He said, Bill, what are you talking about? How do you feel about yourself? Do you think you're better than others? How do you do you want to do good instead of bringing yourself up? It's just something to think about, that we don't get caught up in our selfishness as these folks were. Okay. Now in verse 12. It was at this time that he went off to the mountain to pray. And he spent the whole night in prayer to God. What does that tell you there in that verse about Jesus? What does that tell you?
Sincere, for sure.
Huh?
Said he was sincere, for sure.
Okay.
Wanted to obey God
Okay.
and do his.
He was very close to God.
He was very close to God. This was something he was communicating to God, talking to God. But maybe even let's look a little deeper on the human side. What do you see?
in front of everybody.
He didn't do it in front of everybody. It wasn't for show like that Pharisee was it? But I think we need to even look a little deeper. He went away by himself. He didn't take his disciples with him. You have to remember, can you imagine the pressure? All the people that just kept swarming after Jesus all the time. Want. That had to be very trying for Jesus. Don't you think physically? Wouldn't you think? I would think it would. I don't like crowds, period. This one just kept on all the time.
Physically and mentally.
Yes, he had to be drained. Yes.
I think another reason he was talking to God all night, he was fixing to choose 12 out of the many followers.
Yeah.
And they may have been deciding which ones would be best for the job.
That's a good point too.
You know, there was others that was really good, the people that followed Jesus. Stephen,
Yeah.
there's a whole lot.
It just that we need to sometimes look at the human side of Jesus here. We think of him as God, but he was on earth in man form. And he had, it always strikes me as that this is a time that he had to just get away and I want some peace and quiet.
Well, we see that several times.
Yes.
During his short
Yes.
ministry and short life. He went away to the mountain, or he went
Yeah.
away to this place, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, you stop and think about this. You know, Donna keeps 3 little girls every day. At 5:30 to 6, peace and quiet. They're going home. I can just imagine Jesus, all these people on him all the time. A little peace and quiet. Yeah.
And Bill, have to remember, it was same thing as human then.
Oh, yeah.
And all like hunger and everything.
Verse 13 then. And when day came, he called his disciples to him and chose 12 of them, whom he also named as apostles. Simon, whose name was also Peter, Andrew his brother, and James and John, Philip and Bartholomew, and Matthew and Thomas, James the son of Alphaeus, Simon, who was called the Zealot, Judas, the son of James, and Judas Iscariot, who became a traitor. That's kind of something, ain't it, when you stop and look at that? You look at all of these men here that was listed, and it says Judas Iscariot, who became a traitor. That's something, isn't it? Now in verse 17, continuing on. Jesus came down with them and stood on a level place. And there was a large crowd of his disciples and a multitude of people from all Judea and Jerusalem and the coastal regions of Tyre and Sidon, who had come to hear him and to be healed of their diseases. And those who were troubled with unclean spirits were being cured. And all the people were trying to touch him, for the power was coming from him and healing them all. Did you get a mental picture of what's happening here? And we wondered why Jesus took off for a night and went and prayed. These people were just trying to touch him. There's a mob mentality. Okay? Trying to touch him. Do you think at this time that the disciples had any idea what was in store for them? They had not a clue, did they? We're just going to follow Jesus. And he picked it. Okay, we'll go with him. Of course, that's a big deal in itself. What did they do? When he told them to come and follow me, what did they do?
They went.
Got up, left their stuff, and went. That's just amazing to me. Because what are we all today? Well, I've got to go tell my wife. I've got to go get my stuff. I've got to go. It didn't say they did anything. Left and went.
Well, they also thought he was going to free them from the Romans.
And I think at this time, you got to remember, they were looking for a earthly kingdom. Yeah. They didn't realize all the spiritual aspects of it. Yeah. I think that's a good point. Now in verse 20. Yes.
Before you go on,
Okay.
I'd like to go back probably too far, but verse 16.
Verse 16, yes. Judas, the son of James, and also Judas Iscariot, who would become a traitor.
You know, in the last 20 years or so, I've heard a lot of thinking that Judas did what he did, trying to force Jesus to go ahead and become king now. To take over, you know, kick out the Romans,
Be an earthly king.
take the place of on David's throne. says Judas, who became a traitor. Doesn't say who mistakenly or whatever. I'd like to have your thoughts on those two schools.
Why do you think he went ahead and chose them? You have to remember, I think Judas also had a weakness for what? Money, because he was going to carry the purse around. They carried the money. I don't understand how that, because each one of us in here, we all got a wallet, don't we, or a billfold, or you carry your own money. Okay? Evidently, Judas took care of the money for the disciples of Jesus.
Jesus knew their hearts.
Exactly, exactly. And I've heard this aspect of it, that Judas was chosen for an example. I don't know. But let me tell you this, him being chosen, what did that also portray though? Judas believed in Jesus also. He had to, or he wouldn't have been one of the 12.
Judas always had the opportunity not to do what he did.
That's true. He had the choice.
Yes.
He had the choice. Just as we today, we have the choice not to sin like that. We have that choice. Now, some of us fall into that temptation more easily than others, I think. And when you put in, if he had the love of money in the mix, there's a lot of people who do a lot of things for not very much money. If the opportunity's right. Okay? Just saying.
Well, and you know, from the very beginning, there was a plan.
Yes.
From Genesis chapter 1, there was a plan. And it's hard for me sometimes to figure out and put in place free choice, free will, and God's plan. I think that's one of those things where faith, you just have to believe. But, you know, this was set in motion way back in the beginning. So we may not ever, till we get there, we may not ever fully understand
I
exactly
think that's a
why.
good point. And I've also heard this, Leland, he's talking about why did he mention that Judas, it said he became a traitor. Why didn't it say there on Peter,
We didn't.
would also the man deny me? Didn't put that in there.
Well, was this road after?
Yes. I think so.
Mhm.
Yes. But you know, you stop and think about it. There's a difference between Judas and Peter, isn't there?
Yeah.
Peter, when he seen what he done, what did he do?
You're repentant.
Fell on his face.
Man, I'm sorry. Oh, I can't believe I've done that. He repented. Now, what did Judas do?
Killed himself.
He went and threw the money back, but instead of repenting, he thought he'd take care of the problem.
And there's nothing wrong with money, but the greed.
Well, the love of money is where it comes in. They needed someone to take care of the money, as the apostles.
But Judas always had the choice to repent and return
Yes.
back to Christ.
Exactly. We know further on down in some of the other books, it said that Satan entered Judas. Okay. So he had that opportunity, he had that choice, just as we today. Just as we today. So many times we fall into that temptation, whatever it may be. Let me ask you this, does the devil know what your weakness is? Okay, he knows what he's going to pry on. Where you're weak. Where you're weak. So keep that in mind when we think about things like this. Keep that in mind. Well, we're going to stop right there before we get into verse 20 and what we might call the Beatitudes. We'll take up there next week. Thank you for your comments this morning.